You're listening to Bazong on Project iRadio.
Oh no. Are you gonna ask me for a buck again?
I sure am. You and all the other Zongers out there. Please visit patreon.com/Project iRadio and give us as little as a buck for great rewards.
I'm already giving you a buck.
Thank you so much if you are already giving us a buck. But for those who aren't, please consider even at $1, you get exclusive monthly content from Project iRadio.
What if I give you more?
Well, for as little as $2, you can be entered in for a drawing to win signed show notes from Brian Keene's The Horror Show.
That doesn't sound too bad.
If you think that's pretty good, how about for $5, you can get a personal thank you on your favorite podcast on Project iRadio. All of them, except for Bazong. That's so odd.
Maybe they hate you,
No, that can't be it.
but there's no Bazong rewards.
Listen, they don't hate me. Let's just move on. Don't forget that $10 ebook subscription plan.
This is gonna eat you up inside. They hate you. Admit it.
No, they don't hate me. Let's just get on with it. For $20, you can be part of a monthly exclusive Q&A video chat. Get in on the conversation.
What? The conversation about them hating you?
Would you knock it off? They don't hate me.
I still think they hate you.
Look, would you just shut up about the hating and consider that there's also great discount on ad rates if you become a Patreon? Check it out. Patreon.com/Project iRadio.
Can't we just get on with the show?
Sure.
Bazong. Bazong. Bazong.
Bazong. Bazong. Bazong.
Bazong. Bazong. Bazong. Bazong. Bazong. Bazong.
This is Bazong, the bizarre and weird fiction podcast with me, your host, Mr. Frank Zongers. Welcome back. It's so good to see you again. You're all wonderful, lovely, sexy people. This week, Zongers, very, 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 very special guest this week. Your guest this week on Bazong is the one and only Mr. Frank. That's right. I've talked about it before. I ran a poll to see if anybody was interested, and the results are in. The Mr. Frank Show is on. Now, to be fair, I only got like 5 or 6 votes on, Zonger yeah, Zonger no for the Mr. Frank Show. So there was only like 6 people that have requested this, but all 6 votes were for yes. So for you 6 people who did Zonger in, this show is especially for you. But one thing I have learned podcasting all this time is that 6 votes from your audience is actually kind of pretty huge, because a lot of podcasters beg and plead and try to find ways to get their audience to interact, and it's very difficult to do. You think as a writer trying to get book reviews is hard? Try getting any kind of feedback as a podcaster from your audience. It's difficult because people listen to podcasts, in their car, at the gym, away from their laptops. It's probably the rare listener that's just sitting there at their laptop in their downtime listening to Bazong or any other podcast where they can easily interact with the show. And that's one of the curses of doing podcasts. But as a podcaster, you just learn to appreciate your numbers are out there, and Bazong is fortunate enough to have a strong social media presence on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm very well aware that you're all out there and you're sharing things and you're liking and you're all listening. And I really do appreciate that. So with that in mind, Zongers, we got to delve more into your host, Mr. Frank. Why am I here? We're 25 episodes into Bazong. And many of you may be aware of who I am, where I come from, but with this show, there's probably a lot more of you who just don't know who the fuck this Mr. Frank guy is. So that's what we're going to take their time this week to talk about. Who I am, why I do Bazong. Now, in order for me to explain to you how we got here at Bazong, I have to go back into the Wayback Machine a bit and kind of start at a logical point here, and that is really reading. Obviously, I'm a reader. Everybody should be a reader. That's here on Bazong. But that's where it starts, you know. Back in the day, I was a big horror person. I read Stephen King and practically nothing but Stephen King, and I expanded from there over the years and got into a lot of other writers, and a lot of other genres. And there was a big point in my life where I had my first kid, and I stopped reading. I put the books down, and I just never picked them up. And it had been several years that I didn't read anything. And finally, I picked up Motley Crue's The Dirt. I was really lent it by a friend and picked it up and read through it, and my fever was reignited. But also after I read that and got back into reading hardcore, I started to entertain the idea of writing. And I never knew how to pursue it. I always felt there was something, you know, you needed to train yourself to do, to go to school for it, to learn. I didn't think it was as easy as just putting pen to paper and writing things down and trying to send them out there. And it wasn't until the advent of the e-reader, and I got a Barnes & Noble Nook, and I eventually got exposed to the indie presses, you know, in my quest to not spend $25 on a friggin' ebook. I discovered the indie presses, and they were putting out high quality, great stories at a price that actually made sense for a friggin' ebook. So it was there. Not only did I learn indie press as great writers and putting out great products on a level equal to that of the big publishers, but I also learned that it didn't take a lot of training and college degrees to get into writing. What I learned was these are normal, everyday people just going out there writing their books. And now, in the dawn of the digital world, it takes no training, just a little bit of self-teaching and a lot of dedication, and you too can be a writer. And what happened there, learning about all these people, I also started discovering podcasts like Kevin Smith and his ilk. And a guy like Kevin Smith on his Smodcast podcast is always preaching, you know, for you to go out and do a podcast too. You know, everybody can have a conversation now. It's the same idea behind the ebook explosion. Anybody can do it, and everybody should do it, you know, because it is that easy, and it is you know, essential for you to get out there and express yourself, be it through words or in the podcasting medium through vocalization. So that's what I did originally, was I started a podcast. You've heard me mention it several times here on Bazong. It's the Books, Beer, and Bullshit podcast. I started with my friend Mr. Jeff. And that was it was what it was. It was, we talked about books, and we tasted beer, and then we just kind of bullshitted about whatever was on our minds that particular time that we recorded. And it was the books, really, that the part of the show that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to delve in. I love books. I love talking about books. Love talking about books. So we launched that in mind, listening to other great podcasts like the Booked Podcast, great book review podcast, Booked Podcast. Check them out. And I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to expose the books that I liked, these cool indie horror books. And a recent discovery at the time when I started the podcast was Bizarro. I wanted to expose that genre and talk about those books. So when I launched Books, Beers, and Bullshit, one of the first things I wanted to do was actually interview writers. It was, not only was it great to find these great books by people, who are not traditionally published, but they're also accessible. I was never going to start a book podcast and get an interview with Stephen King, but one of the first people I did interview was a gentleman named Armand Rosamilia, whose name will be familiar to some of you. And he was a zombie writer at the time, writing zombie fiction, and he had started a blog tour to help promote his zombie fiction stuff, and he'd get a couple other zombie fiction writers with him. And this is right when that genre was blowing up because of the success of the digital publishing revolution. So we were able to sit down and have a phone conversation with Armand and presented that interview on Books, Beer, and Bullshit. And that's, Definite Origins interviewing with Bazong came from way back in 2012, interviewing Armand Rosamilia on that podcast. And there was a fever born for doing that. Now, Books, Beer, and Bullshit continued on for several years. We are on hiatus. We've not put out a Books, Beer, and Bullshit podcast since November of last year, but that will be remedied very soon, I assure you. If there are any Books, Beer, and Bullshit fans out there, keep an eye out there. Onwards and upwards. I did do that podcast for, like I said, 3 years. And through circumstance, as it were, I moved, and it was Christmas time, and this, that, and the other thing. Moving takes up a lot of your time. Buying a house takes up a lot of your time, and that's a big reason why that podcast went on hiatus. Trying to pack up a house, trying to get mortgages, all that junk. Podcasting was not in the cards, and then I'm in my new house now since the beginning of the year. And once I moved in and started getting settled in a bit, I had the podcasting equipment sitting there. And, there's always a bug for me to get on this microphone and start talking to you. That's in my blood. It's running through my blood to do this. And I get itchy. You get that itchy trigger finger, You got to type your words out, and you got to hit record and get your words out. So an opportunity presented itself through the aforementioned Armand Rosamilia, who is the host of not one, but two podcasts right here on Project iRadio. If you're not listening to one or both, do yourself a favor. Armcast, Dead Sexy Horror Podcast. Armand does a similar sort of show to Bazong in which he interviews horror-based people, not just writers, he's filmmakers and all kinds of people. And he also does a show with Mark Tufo called Armin Tuf's Dead Time Podcast. Also a horror-related show. They are able to access bigger names, shall we say, in horror, both filmmaking, writing, due to the shall we say, name recognition that Armand Rosamilia and Mark Tufo have in the horror circles nowadays. So good on them. Check those shows out if you don't. But anyway, Armand Rosamilia was doing podcasts here on Project iRadio already, and he heard from Jess, the king of Project iRadio, that he was looking to expand the shows, to get more shows on Project iRadio, and they were looking for a Bizarro show. Jess was actively looking for a show about Bizarro. He knew this weird genre was out there, and there was sort of a cult following to it, shall we say, and that he wanted to include that in his geek culture podcasting network. And so Armand's like, well, I know a guy who's totally into Bizarro. And the show was offered up to me, and I had to come up with something. So here's an interesting little factoid about Bazong. I originally envisioned the show being a game show in which I would retain prizes from the people I invited on, the writers I invited onto the show. And then I would set up questions, Jeopardy kind of style thing, in which I would ask the writer I had on for the week these questions. And based on how well they did, they would be playing for a listener. And based on how well they did with the questions, that listener would win prizes for the week from that author. And that's what I originally set out to do. And that's kind of where the title Bazong comes from, because Bazong, to me, sounds like a game show. In my head, it's like, we're going to do a game show called Bazong. You know, that's where that came from. It's just a crazy, stupid word that popped into my head, and it stuck. And I did have to sell it. A lot of people were not. They're confused about Bazong, but here we go, 25 weeks into it, and I think I've sold the name. Everybody's behind Bazong. I haven't heard the Bazong? Everybody's like, Bazong! Everybody is behind the title. So that's the story of the title. There's nothing spectacular. It just popped in there because I had this game show-based idea for the podcast. What happened was, as I began to research and set up that idea, I realized that is a shit ton of work. And to produce a show week after week on my own, formulating questions, getting guests together, getting prizes together, that's a lot of work. And not something I could do on my own. I still think it's a great idea. And if anybody wants to talk to me about producing a show like that, we can have a discussion. But just understand that that's going to take some people, some production. And I don't have the time for all that. But I would love to pursue that one day if anybody has the interest. So Bazong ultimately became what you hear today. It's an interview show with writers. And another drive of the show here was when I did the Books, Beer, and Bullshit podcast, I approached that, like I said, as a reader. I was a big-time reader. And as I did the podcast, and I was able to talk to all these great indie writers, and I did become aware that it is just that easy. It's just the dedication to put pen to paper and keep at it, keep doing it. Make sure you're disciplined enough to put out good stuff, because I'm sure everybody out here has bought an ebook that is terrible, never edited, never, poor layout. Everybody's bought that ebook. Everybody got stuck with that. Those writers don't last, obviously. So it's the ones that are self-disciplined enough to know, the cover's got to be good. It's got to look good. The formatting's got to be spot on, and the editing, it has to be a good, clean, edited book. Those are the people that stick around. And that's what it takes. But it was enough for me to be inspired to, not worry about that college degree in writing. Anybody can do this. And the other thing was, like everybody else, everybody has that story. I was always a writer. Right from a kid, I was always writing. Same for me. There's no difference there. I was always writing things. It always grabbed people's attentions. It made me feel good, obviously, but it never struck me just to keep doing that. And there was a knack for it. I always remember like the one essay in second or third grade, and it got I don't know what it was. It was something about using adjectives and being descriptive, and whatever the assignment was, everybody went to task. And apparently, I don't remember the specific assignment, but everybody had done it wrong. Nobody covered the subject matter the way the teacher wanted, and basically said everybody did it wrong. But Frank's essay over here, even though it's wrong, is incredible. It's great adjective use, a wonderful descriptive thing, and she hung it up on the wall over her desk, and it was a proud moment for me. And I didn't even try. That was the thing. I was just doing what I thought was right. Yes, the assignment was wrong, but the rest of the class was wrong. And even though everybody was wrong, mine still earned a place up on the wall. And it was a point of pride for me. And like the earliest moment I can recall that there was probably a knack I had for doing this writing stuff. You know, fast forward through, you know, my school years, my formative years, I always enjoyed expressing myself. I wrote song lyrics in high school, crazy stuff like that, and then enter college, and I was often finding myself writing these little things to either kind of impress a girl. You know, some people walk up and try to do magic tricks or just be cool and drop cheesy pickup lines, and I would always just write these little stories and shit, try to grab a girl's attention and make her smile and shit like that. And it was, again, just another thing I knew I had a knack for, to be cute about it, but never ever considered, following. Even into the dawn of the internet age and the World Wide Web, and I was learning HTML and putting together my own little websites on GeoCities and all that shit. And the brunt of GeoCities and my websites, there was always a section there where I would write these stupid inside joke stories about my friends. We'd become, starship captains like Star Trek, and we'd be a bunch of idiots in outer space on a starship, and things of that ilk. I was always doing that kind of stuff, just inside jokes for people. And the most recent thing I had been doing over a few years ago was at my job, my previous employer. I was so bored out of my mind with the job. It was going nowhere. It became stagnant. I was paying the bills and I had to do it, but I was just bored out of my mind. I was not being challenged. And so while I was working, I was just grabbing little, essentially, index cards and writing out these little stupid stories about my coworkers, and they're becoming wizards and making crazy penis birds and that sort of thing. And like, hey, check this out. We're on break, and everybody's having a laugh. Once again, everybody's reading these little jokes, having a laugh, enjoying the writing, and they're starting to like question me. They're starting to like point out plot holes and stuff in my stupid little penis bird jokes. And I'd have to sit there and, try to explain it out, or, oh, yeah, you're right, and go back and revise it. And I'm really, I'm like doing this thing. I'm like doing this thing. These people are enjoying it. It's 10 people at best. They're enjoying it. But now I see, I'm putting one and one together. I'm like, this is the digital age, and I can just take this, don't make it an inside joke, make it accessible for everybody, and I'm doing what all these other independent writers are doing. And that's when I decided I was going to start pursuing, the independent publishing thing. So I started making my stories less inside jokey, a little more accessible, writing horror. It was right before I discovered Bizarro, so I was writing these little horror stories. Very, I had also, I came to the Keen cult, the Fuku. I came to him late. I didn't discover Keen until about 2009, 2008, in there. And so a lot of the writing and stuff in and around that time was very, Keen-like. Everything ended poorly and was glum. And then I discovered Bizarro, and that was something that not only opened a big door for me as a reader, but as a writer, because that was the genre that proved that there are no rules. Just don't worry about writing these horror things in well-defined terms and all that. Do anything, and it's what I wanted to do. And Bizarro allowed my writing to break out, not only my mind and my imagination, but my writing also to break out. And I started exploring that. The first thing I ever got published actually was, once again, through Mr. Armand Rosamilia, who opens many, many doors for me, and I'm forever eternally grateful, just riding along on his coattails and gaining my notoriety when I can. But through Mr. Armand Rosamilia, there was he's a thriller writer named Tim Baker, and he was putting out a book called Unfinished Business, a story about a woman who is like a psychic or has a psychic power where she's able to pick up the wishes of the dead. They're the things they didn't get to finish up in life. That one thing they didn't get to do before they died. And the dead like get to her and she has to carry out these things. Obviously there becomes a crime thing and she gets all involved in there. But what Tim Baker did was he put out a call, like, hey, Unfinished Business coming out. It's a book about, death. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish 2 stories in the back of my book when it comes out. I'm going to run a short story contest. And the only thing is, write about death. So it was just the right thing at the right moment. And I wrote a short story particularly for that short story contest about death. And anybody who's read it, a few people have read my stuff, know that's a story called Death Gets a Life. And what I did was, I didn't write is there were a lot of stories, dark stuff about a soldier in the battlefield and a woman on an airplane, real dealing with death's dark, deep, dark stuff. What I did was I personified death. I went literal. I wrote a story about death, a.k.a. the Grim Reaper. And I put a twist on it. Here's Tim Baker. Tim Baker lives in Florida, in sunny Palm Coast tropical paradise. And I kind of springboarded that. I was trying to sell to my audience. And I wrote a song about death. I thought, wouldn't it be cool? We're talking Florida, right? And like I mentioned before, I'm in this job I'm working, and it sucks, and I'm dragging my heels, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if down in Florida, there was a death. In my death, they work jobs. There's the death for Central Florida, and there's the death that works over in Southern Ohio, that type of thing. It's all territorial. I said, wouldn't it be cool if the death down in Florida was just bored of his fucking job, because all he does day in and day out is take old people, there's tons of old people in Florida, and he just becomes bored with the monotony, and he just stops doing his job. He can't take it anymore. And all of a sudden the surfer dude he's trying to get to the beach, and he can't get there because the beach is loaded with old people because nobody's taking them. The old people are not dying. They're just crowding the beaches, and the surfer gets pissed. And the surfer goes and he knocks on Death's door. He's like, dude, come on. I can't go surfing. I got to get these people out of here. Only to discover that Death is severely depressed. And he just needs a good time. He needs to rediscover life, So the surfer guy takes Death out for a night on the town, has him hang out with some girls. And, eventually it all turns out well. That's that little short story. That twist, that difference. It wasn't dark. It wasn't glum. It was a personification of death. It drew the attention of Tim Baker, and he made me a finalist in the contest. There were, I don't know, a few stories for the contest as finalists to get published. And then he did something that was different, but it gave me drive. He ran a short story contest, but he wussied out. He wussed out completely. He didn't want to be the one to decide who the winner of the short story contest was, so he put it up to a vote. Unfortunately, it became a popularity contest and not a contest of merit. So then I had to go and get 1 million people to vote for my story. And happy ending. I won. I was able to get a bazillion votes, and I got my first short story published in the back of a book called Unfinished Business by Tim Baker. Great book. Definitely check it out. And, for all you Frank Edler completionists, that's an important one to get. Tim Baker's Unfinished Business. Death Gets a Life is in the back. And then that was it. Now, we had a discussion, I believe it was with Rose O'Keefe or somebody I had a discussion with on this podcast about, when is it enough? Now I'm published. Now I got that book. I got that, contributor copy. And I opened it up here in the back. There I am. There's my name. There's everything I typed out. It's for real now. And it was like, okay. I need more. But my name is in the back here. It's in the back in obscurity. I need something less obscure, but I need to keep doing this. So the opportunity came up with Strange House books. At the point when Kevin Strange and Don Noble they're really getting into the swing of things over there at Strange House, and they opened up submissions for the Strange vs. Lovecraft anthology. Excuse me, I needed to wet my whistle. They opened up submission for the Strange vs. Lovecraft anthology, which I initially balked at submitting to because I've read Lovecraft a little bit here and there, dabbled. At best, I would not consider myself a big fan of Lovecraft. I get it. I get the Cthulhu. Everybody knows fucking Cthulhu now. Tentacles and everything. But it didn't really... I'm like, eh. So I kind of ignored it. And my wife came back to me. Somehow she saw the submission call. And she's like, oh, there's this book they're taking submissions, and there's, it's going to be an anthology, and they shop them at cons and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, what is this thing? And it's Strange vs. Lovecraft. Yeah, all right. So in order to not disappoint my wife, and also I said to myself, why not? Why not take the stab, A, and why not challenge myself to write something Lovecraftian? And I needed to delve into, like, what the fuck with Lovecraftian, and you get the tentacles, and it's otherworldly, and everybody knows what Lovecraftian is, right? Okay, deep ones, all that shit. So what I did was, all right, I gotta write something. So I went back to a Lovecraft story I enjoyed called The Haunter of the Dark. And I basically riffed on that idea. My story is called Eat Shit and Die. That was accepted into the Strange vs. Lovecraft anthology. Eat Shit and Die is a hack story. I will not lie. It is a story that deals with poop. Lots of poop. It's just disgusting. I sold disgusting to Strange House. Kevin Strange supports poop stories. And God bless him. Because, yeah, by and large, stories about shit is hack. I recognize that now. But I was still trying to figure it all out. And hey, the story got accepted. It's in the anthology. And the people that I saw review it kind of enjoyed this stupid poop story, the poop monster. So, there it is. I continued on further. Strange fucking stories. Another anthology of Strange House. I came up with another story. One's called Dick Sick. And that's a story about a guy who wakes up one morning, he's feeling sick. We all know that feeling. We get up, you feel in the back of your throat. You don't want to admit it, but you're getting sick. God damn it. And he coughs up some phlegm, and he's disturbed to find there's some little penis-shaped sprinkles in his phlegm, and he thinks that's weird. And then he takes a poop, and there's some penis-shaped things in there, and they're getting bigger. And as he progressively has discharges out of the various orifices of his body, all the discharge associated with being sick, the peepees are getting bigger to the point where he finally has a giant penis just sticking out of him from end to end, like he got speared. And he has to, him and his friend have to visit a holistic medicine doctor to get that taken care of. That's called Dick Sick, and that's in Strange Fucking Stories. What I'm a little more proud of. It's maybe a little more, it may still be a little hack, just selling dick jokes. But I think my storytelling progressed with that one. So I was, in essence, I'm getting all these short stories published. I'm having success. I've been able to convince myself that there are people out there that like my work and will accept it and pay me a couple bucks for it. Convinced that my story can help them sell books. So that's good stuff. But like I said before, once again, I'm getting all these acceptances. Validation, of course, we all look for. But it's not enough still. I need my name on the cover. So I put together my own collection of short stories called Scared Silly. I am proud of that book because I put that book together myself. I did have somebody do the cover for me, but I did all the layout. It was never professionally edited. It was just, beta read here and there. There are mistakes in it. I've done my best to clean them up, but there's still plenty of mistakes in it. And I'll go back and clean up little things, re-upload the file. But for the most part, the kooky layout and all that, I leave that as it is because it is a representation of something I did on my own and sold. And it was also going to work as a springboard because at the time I put that book together, I was in between jobs. And I was going to try and use that to focus more on a writing career if that's needed to happen. But I was able to secure another lucrative full-time position. So writing didn't have to become a full-time thing for me. Thank goodness, because, I can't imagine trying to force a writing career to make money. It's brutal. Anyhow, I did use the time between jobs to write a full-length novel, 60,000 words. That one's called Brats in Hell. That one's been sitting around since the end of 2014, shall we say. I've tried to sell it around without much luck so far. I haven't really pounded the pavement selling it around. Sprinkle it out here and there. No takers yet. I keep toying with the idea in and out of that, of just doing it myself, putting it out myself. And, but I go back and forth. So I really rather work with a publisher. That's my thing. I will self-publish. No big deal. But I'd really rather work with a publisher. I think that's a good, working for each other. To do all that work on your own as a writer and a promoter and everything. That's a lot of work, and I'm not above promoting and putting the work in on my own, but while you're trying to also hold down a career and raise a family and all that stuff, it's a hell of a lot of work. So my preference would be to try and keep getting that book sold to a publisher, and in the interim of going back and forth of whether I want to self-pub or sell it to a publisher on Brats in Hell. I've also written another book, just recently completed. It's got to get edited and everything. It needs a little more time, a little more brewing, but I'm more open to publishing this one. My intention right now is to publish this latest thing through Riot Forge. We had Don Noble on, the creator of Riot Forge. It's sort of a writers collective. Where everybody kind of helps one another out. It's self-publishing, but like I said, it's a collective, and it's a neat idea. I try to want to work with them and get a book out. This latest thing I wrote is called Death Gets a Book. It's a riff on that original short story I told you about. Death Gets a Life. It's a continuation of the exploration of these deaths, these Grim Reapers and their territories. It was springboarded from another short story I wrote called A Death in Tennessee. Originally written for publication in a State of Horror book where it was not accepted. But I love the story, and I was like, I'm kind of glad it's not accepted because, while I had it out for submission, I was kind of like, wow. I got this idea for a bigger book, and I'm like, damn, I wish I kept that to just sell as this Death Gets a Book thing. And thank God they rejected it, because now I don't have to give it up to them, and I can use it for this Death Gets a Book thing. And, at the rate we're going, Death Gets a Book will probably be out ahead of my Brats in Hell novella, however you want to categorize a 60,000 word book. So that's me. That's my writing stuff. That's where I was springboarded. So I kind of got away from the idea, but like I said, the Books, Beer, and Bullshit podcast came from a reader's perspective. And as I started doing this writing thing, I found myself wanting to ask more writer questions to learn as a writer, those little inside things that readers wouldn't normally worry about. But the podcast was from a reader's perspective, and I felt like I was being held back there in the interviews. And so when the opportunity came up to do this Bizarro podcast, and the idea of a game show was just too monumental for me to handle, I said, well, this is my opportunity to interview, not as a reader, but as a writer, and to learn. And I've said this here and there along the lines. The dirty little secret of this podcast is that this is my writing school. I'm talking to all these bizarre writers because I'm trying to learn, what they do, what their techniques are, pick up little hints, little tips, understand what motivates them. And while I do that, I'm hoping to pass that information along to everybody else, because it seems to be working. Everybody's enjoying the podcast. Everybody's enjoying that angle. And I think that's the success of this podcast. This is an opportunity for Bizarro writers. Everybody writes in Bizarro to learn what everybody else is doing, bouncing ideas off of one another. Those crazy, bizarre erotica stories, the Mandy DeSandra stuff. How many people didn't even consider? Just, it doesn't take much to do that. And it's another avenue. Like Christoph Paul said, we interviewed him. It's still writing. It's still writing exercise. It's still writing time. And there's not a whole lot of discipline to it. And I guess when people are whacking their stuff, they're not really worried about editing and all that stuff. So it can be a little sloppier. So that's what I'm looking to do here at Bazong. I'm trying to educate myself and everybody else, and I think I've been doing that. I think I've been successful. It's up to you, Zongers, to tell me whether I have been or not. So that's the history of how I got here at Bazong, and how it crisscrossed with my own attempt at writing here. And I hope one hand can wash the other with that. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we got here. We're going to continue on, obviously, interviewing people, but I felt that it really is important to let you know who I am. We're 25 episodes into this, and a lot of you people are probably just like, what is this guy? Why is he the cultural ambassador to Bizarro, And I'm just trying to do my part for the genre. Like I always say, to wave that flag, spread the word here through the medium of podcasting, and to hopefully expand the audience that way. The project, the opportunity not only to do this podcast, but to do this podcast on Project iRadio, where you have the horror show with Brian Keane, you have three guys with beards, you have Armin Toove's Dead Time show thing that they do. Kelly Owen, my God, great podcast. Kelly Owen's Buttercup of Doom. All these big names and well-established writers with healthy audiences. They'll come into this network, and I've already seen it. We're getting people in. They're checking out. They're coming here for the horror stuff, and they're, what's this Bizarro thing? So they're hearing you guys doing the interviews here, and they're getting interested in this kooky stuff. They're taking chances on it, and that's it's really why I was excited to be a part of Project iRadio, because not only was it an opportunity to just do a Bizarro podcast and for myself to vent about Bizarro and present it, but to be a part of this network with so many great talents hosting podcasts. The exposure I knew I was going to get doing a Bizarro podcast on here, I assure you, is paying dividends. So as we start to wind down the show here, and with that idea in mind, it's something I don't talk about a lot here on Project I Radio. Everybody knows you listen to the horror show with Brian Keene. You can do advertising here. I'll talk about your books. I'll talk about any product you got. I think with Bazong, if you want to advertise, I'll talk about your book. We'll talk about it. We'll pitch it. I got no problem with that. But, if you got something else going on, maybe if you're like the publisher, maybe if you're doing anthologies or you're a publisher or you're launching a new publishing house, you have something established, you got a crop of books coming out, that would make a whole bunch of sense here to talk about it on Bazong, to advertise with us, because that's something we also offer on Bazong for the Project I Radio Network. We have great advertising rates. I am not the one equipped to sell you ad time. That would be Jess's job. So, if you think you might be interested in advertising on Bazong, do me a favor. Reach out to Jess, Jess, at projectiradio.com. Inquire with him about the rates for advertising on Bazong or any of the other shows, or doing combinations. He'll work up a advertising package just for you based on your needs, what you're looking for, your budgets. There's a lot of ways to go about it, and there's a lot of different pricing schemes. Something I'm not equipped to discuss because I just don't have the figures in front of me and all that stuff. He'll work something out great with you. They just recently did a year-long advertising deal with a store in a mall in Jacksonville, Florida. They're getting ready to bust out, expand their stores nationwide throughout malls of America. And they've just cut a year-long advertising deal with Project I Radio. It's big, huge for the network. It's huge for the company. They're getting their name out there. So consider that. There's a lot. I don't know the numbers exactly, but it's a pretty big number that we reach here at Project I Radio. It is a pretty unique opportunity. So like I said, if you think you got something, if you want to sell your book, excuse me, if you want to sell your book, if you got a publishing house, if you got a weird product, something, anything, you going to cons, you got something kooky, consider advertising here on Project I Radio. Consider advertising here on Bazong. I'll be happy to shill your stuff. I love shilling stuff. Go to Books, Beer, and Bullshit podcast. Go look that up. Listen to us shill this product called the bottle wrench. It's a guy in Georgia. He just takes crescent wrenches and he just slightly modifies them into bottle openers, beer bottle openers, any bottle, whatever. They're beer bottle openers. And he sells them, calls them bottle wrenches. I've been shilling that product for a while on Books, Beer, and Bullshit. I love it. He lets us go. We came up with a deal, and I just shilled the damn thing. I have fun doing it, so I guarantee you if you buy some ad time here, I'll have fun with it. We'll sell some stuff, all right? So consider that. Once again, Jess, Jess, at Project I Radio. Ask him, what are we gonna do? Let's talk. I want to advertise here on Bazong, on Project I Radio. Here's what I want. Here's what I'm looking for. What can we do? Jess will talk to you. Also, I also want you to remember that we do have Patreon here at Project I Radio. If the advertising dollars aren't your thing, but you just still want to contribute to not only Bazong, but when you contribute to Patreon, you're helping the entire Project I Radio network. I'm sure 99% of you listen to more than just Bazong. So you're helping every show out. If you want to give $1, $2, $5, $10 to the Patreon account for Project I Radio. Another great way to support this network. That one's important because, like I said, there are big numbers here coming in at Project I Radio. Lots of bandwidth. And if anybody knows anything about podcasting, the more listeners you have, the more bandwidth you're putting out. The more bandwidth you put out, the more the hosting company charges you. So we need things like Patreon to keep the lights on, to keep the bandwidth open, to let new listeners come in, to let you listen. You don't want a thing to come out. You know, it's been said early on, Thursday nights, the horror show with Brian Keene comes out, and the servers went slowed down. Weren't able to keep up with that demand, that bandwidth. And it's things like Project iRadio's Patreon that help us expand and continue to pay for bigger bandwidth. That's the type of thing when you're giving your buck that you're buying, you know. The ability to seamlessly access Bazong, the horror show, Harry Strange, the radio drama. Hey, speaking of Harry Strange, the radio drama, any fans of that show, big reminder, if you're going to be at Dragon Con, September 2nd through the 5th, Harry Strange radio drama will be doing a live performance of the podcast at Dragon Con. So if you're going to be at Dragon Con, make sure you go check out Harry Strange radio drama live. The entire crew from the Harry Strange radio drama will be there doing the show. If you're a fan, it's definitely a unique opportunity. And tell them Bazong sent you too, right? Speaking of cons and appearances, don't forget FanFest Orlando. That's going to be happening in October. Go to fanfest.com/Orlando. Big, huge con. Every single cent earned from the con is going to help the victims of the Pulse nightclub tragedy. If you're going to be in Orlando, definitely check that out. That's from the people who present to you the Walker Stalker cons, the Heroes and Villains cons. They got names, and the list of people who are going to participate in the Orlando Fan Fest in October, it's growing. So just go to fanfest.com/Orlando. You can get your tickets there, and you can keep track of all the big name celebrities are going to be there. Everybody who's going to be there is giving all their profits to benefit the victims and families of the Pulse nightclub shooting. You know, it's something that you're going to want to go do if you're down there in the Orlando area. Check that out for sure. Also, coming up very, very soon, the Kilts That Care. The podcast is going to be done by Armand Rosamilia, Mark Tufo, and he will have special guests Brian Keene and Joe Ripple, the creator of the Scares That Care convention. It's not a convention; it's a charity event, is what it is. Another great. It's a convention. It's a horror convention, but this is another great convention because, once again, all the money raised by Scares That Cares goes to charity. It goes directly to families affected, burn victims, children with terrible illnesses, women breast cancer survivors. You know, 3 families every year are picked to be the beneficiaries of these monies collected. And you can go on to scaresthatcare.com. You can go on their Facebook page, learn about the families that all this money is going to get donated to. And there's great monthly giveaways and everything. But, you know, now we're coming up on the convention here at the end of July. It's the 22nd to the 25th. On July 23rd, Saturday, July 23rd, at 9 a.m., if you're going to be at Scares That Care in Williamsburg, Virginia, Saturday, July 23rd, 9 a.m., wake up early, get yourself to the promenade, whatever it is, get yourself there, because they're going to be doing the Kilts That Care podcast. Like I said, Armand Rosamilia, Mark Tufo, Joe Ripple, creator of Scares That Care, and Brian Keene are all going to be doing a podcast live wearing kilts for charity. They've actually raised close to $3,000, if not more than $3,000, to put on kilts and podcast. That's what their special fundraiser for Scares That Care was. I said, if you know, Armand and Mark Tufo started out, if we raise, I think it was $1,000, we'll wear kilts and podcast down there. And then Brian Keene got on board. He said, well, if you raise $2,000, I'll wear the kilt too. And then Joe Ripple got in, and that was like a $2,500 threshold. They raised well past $2,500. They're all going to be doing a podcast live in kilts, 9 a.m., July 23rd, in the Promenade at the Scares That Care charity event. If you're going to be there, go check that out. But if you're going to be there, let me know, because I'm going to be at Scares That Care this year. I can't wait. I am so excited to get down there and to meet my fellow Project iRadio podcasters. Just about all of them are going to be there. A great many will be there. And we're going to get together and hang out. Maybe we'll do something special that if you're on Patreon, you'll get a chance to listen to. Yeah, there you go. How's that for incentive? Big, giant Project iRadio reunion podcast. Guarantee it's going to happen. Get your Patreon. You know, it might only take $1 to get that. The other thing I want to promote is myself. It's rare that I do it, but this week, July 12th, my book, Shocker 2, co-written with the aforementioned and often mentioned Armand Rosamilia. He and I are doing this trilogy, the Shocker trilogy. Book 2 in the Shocker trilogy comes out Tuesday, July 12th. So this podcast comes out first thing, Monday, July 11th. And if you're listening Monday, July 11th, go to Amazon.com and pick up your free copy of Shocker 1 ebook, Kindle ebook. Free today, July 11th. If you Zonger Day, today. If you Zonger Day after July 11th, you will not get Shocker 1 for free. Today only, July 11th, Shocker 1 free on Kindle. Tomorrow, if you're listening today, if you Zonger Day on Tuesday, then it's today. But anyway, July 12th, Shocker 2. The trilogy continues. Vito Schocchetti continues to fight the monsters. Pick it up in ebook and trade paperback on Amazon.com. That's my promotion, all right, Zongers? That's what's going on. I didn't talk about those books, but that's another thing I'm doing. The Shocker trilogy with Armand Rosamilia. So with that in mind, Zongers, thank you for joining us for the Mr. Frank Show. If there's anything I missed, anything you're still curious about, anything I didn't go over, if I have not validated my reason for being the host of Bazong and you need more, be sure to let me know. Reach out to me on Twitter at Bazong Podcast, or reach out to us on Facebook, facebook.com/Bazong. And let me know. Let me know what I didn't cover, what I missed, what you want to know more about. Maybe we'll do another Mr. Frank show in the future. But that's all the time we have for this week. So you're now free to go and listen to these other great Project iRadio podcasts. Oh, give us the gong. Forgot about that. Give us the gong.
Buttercup of Doom on Project iRadio. I am your host, Kelly Owen. I'm just a girl who writes horror and thriller fiction, talks to bugs, jumps in puddles, and now hosts a weekly podcast full of opinions, advice, and a touch of gypsy wisdom, whether it's current affairs or social media nightmares. Join me, the Buttercup of Doom, Mondays on Project iRadio.
This is Jim Adams from Monster Attack. Hey, if you remember that monster movie from your childhood that got it all started for you, the one that really got you interested in monster movies, horror movies, sci-fis, and cult films, then you're going to want to listen every week to Monster Attack. We look at some of our favorite monster movies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. With new episodes uploaded every Monday, it's Monster Attack exclusively on Project iRadio.